Hey guys, what's up? NullRage here, and today we're taking a look at the Thor 52 review. This build's been on, or rather, the review has been on Test Center for a few days now, and I'm just now getting around to making this video because I kind of wanted to wait. The earlier two builds they weren't quite what Thor should be for his 52 review, but this latest one is got things moving in the right directions. A lot of the tooltips make more sense. You know, the two earlier builds would have been very, very confusing to make videos for because there were a lot of hidden mechanics going on. But this one, everything should make sense. Let's hop in and have a look. First things first, let's see if he's got any synergy changes. I believe his synergies will remain the same. Let's go ahead and find Thor here. Here he is. 3% physical damage at level 25 and 3% energy damage at level 50. I believe that's the way it is on... No, this is definitely a change. This is definitely a change. Because his previous synergies were, what was it, 2% melee damage and then an on-hit energy proc? Yes, that's what it was. So he is now the go-to physical energy hybrid passive synergy character. Alright, let's hop in and have a look at his skills. The trees remain the same, it looks like. Master of Mjolnir, God of Thunder, Son of Asgard. But there is a great difference in the actual skills themselves. First things first is the Odin Force mechanic. Now, I believe way early Thor had an Odin Force mechanic that the devs have been really wanting to bring back, and like I said, in the first two builds of the Test Center, I don't think they quite hit the spot they were aiming for with the Odin Force mechanic. But now, after this latest iteration, I think things are headed the right direction, and the Odin Force will become a fun mechanic to work around while you're playing Thor instead of sort of a limitation of the character, because you know you have to build up this and it always feels like it's holding you back. You never want your secondary mechanic to feel like it's holding the character back. You always want it to feel like it's building them up, and I think the latest iteration of Odin Force does that. Let's go ahead and hop in, have a look at Hammer Strike, the first skill in the tree. It's going to generate one Odin Force. Alright, pretty basic. And you'll notice your total number of Odin Force here is 9. So 9 hits with that basic, and you're at max, and you can use up all of your skills that will use Odin Force. Speaking of which, Hammer of Storms. Innately, it's going to deal some physical damage, and then it's got an extra effect on it. Consume 3 Odin Force for a different effect. And I believe this is going to change the skill entirely. You'll still do that initial physical damage, but you will also deal arced lightning damage per hit. Now, notice the arced lightning on here. Alright, so each time it passes through a target, right? Yeah, each time it passes through the target, it's going to strike everything around it. Let's go ahead and use up all of my Odin Force. And now, if you're at 0 Odin Force, what's going on with the skill? You can see it just flies through and does some basic physical damage. So the key to a lot of Thor's skills are going to be building up that Odin Force to gain additional effects and make your other skills do cool things. He's also got another mechanic on here, and I believe this mechanic is shared between all skills that use Odin Force. Anytime you use Odin Force, you're going to imbue yourself with some powers, and you'll see some other skills like these two, this one right here, I think Crack the Sky and Thundering Strike. We'll get to those in a second, but they will take advantage of that imbued state to deal extra damage. Alright, you all know what Thunderous Charge is. Energy damage, movement speed for 4 seconds, knockdown duration, your basic dash, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Your basic movement dash skill. It will give you that increased movement speed after use. We talked about Hammer Storm. Let's go on to Leaping Smite here. It's going to deal some low physical damage to begin with, but if you have Odin Force, you will consume 3 of it to deal increased physical damage and stun. It's going to add that stun if you have Odin Force. Let's have a look at Leaping Smite. Oh, that's nice. I like the impact. Very cool. Alright, and yeah, you saw there on the end, there it is. Not quite an impact when you don't have that Odin Force built up. Build up some Odin Force though. There's 3 of it, and there you go. Much more impact. And it looks like the radius increased a bit there too. Not sure about that, but it looked like it. Alright, Thundering Strike is the next skill in this tree. Smash an enemy in front of you with such force that you may damage all foes behind them with a shockwave. This is, like I was saying, after using Odin Force, you become imbued, and certain attacks, like Thundering Strike and Crack the Sky, gain additional effects. Let's go ahead and have a look at Thundering Strike. There it is normally. With no imbue, you're just going to hit. Alright, so turn up a little Odin Force here and spend it, and you can see I'm glowing now. Glowing yellow. I've been imbued with mighty power. So now, when I use this, it's got a little bit of a shockwave to it. Now the imbue only lasts for 5 seconds unless you're talking about this, which will increase your imbue for, give you imbued for like 9 seconds, as long as you have 4 Asgard. Alright, next up we've got Spinning Strike. This is, I love the animation on this skill. It's, if you remember the, was it Thor 2 or was it Thor, the first Thor movie? It's gotta be the one where they're warring on other planets. It's gotta be Thor 2. Yeah, it's gotta be Thor 2, where he fights the rock golem. And he spins his hammer and just hits him right in the jaw. Head flies everywhere. Monster disintegrates. I love this. This is the animation that they chose to go for this skill, and it's tremendously well done. There it is, just right to the jaw. Send your enemy flying with a big single target hit. In addition, the cooldown is 8 seconds, and it's lowered by 1 second each time you spend Odin Force. So let's earn up a bit of Odin Force here. Now it does use a bit of Odin Force itself. I don't think that it lowers its own cooldown. I think it's always going to be 8. So we hit. Nope, it does lower its own cooldown because it jumped to 6 immediately. Alright. Sorry, I got distracted. Let's do that hit. And now each time I spend Odin Force, like on Leaping Smite, it's going to lower that cooldown even further. Now eventually, I'll know what skills actually spend Odin Force, so I'll be able to do that much quicker. But leap, leap. Now it does have an Odin Force cost of its own, 3, so maintaining that Odin Force if you want to use this regularly is going to be very important. Alright, let's see, what's next? Hammer Smash. Now this is a skill that initially, in the last 2 builds, they took out, but by popular demand, it is back. Hammer Smash, you know, is pretty much my go-to AoE before the rework. Let's have a look at what it does now. It's going to deal some physical damage, it's going to apply a vulnerability for 8 seconds. It's got a cooldown of 4 seconds, but when you are imbued, cooldown is removed. When you become imbued. Okay, that... Hold on, that... It's a little bit... the wording on this might be a bit misleading. So, like, okay. Where's it at? Okay, and this will imbue me, right? Yeah, alright. So, smash. And when I become imbued, the cooldown... Oh, okay. So it's both. It's both. If you are imbued, the cooldown is 0, and it also resets the cooldown when you become imbued. So you can hit, apply your vulnerability, hit, reset the cooldown, and smash, smash, smash. Very cool. Alright, next up we've got Asgardian Smite, one of my favorite abilities to use on Thor. Crashdown abilities are some of my favorite anyway, but let's see. Cooldown looks to decrease when you put points into the skill. Probably be maxing that out just for that, but let's check out the animation of the damage anyway. There you go. Everybody knows this skill. Alright, now that's going to generate 3 Odin Force, so if I had used up all my Odin Force here, Use that to get some back. Cool, cool. Next up, we've got the God of Thunder tree. This is going to focus mainly on range stuff. You know, you got Master of Milnor over here. I don't know. Master of Mew Mew over here with the melee tree. And over here you got God of Thunder. So I can get this on the bar. Yeah, we'll just... There we go. Alright. So first up, we've got Forked Lightning. Right there. It's going to do some energy damage twice per second. And it looks like it's a ongoing channeled skill. Huge AoE here. Very, very nice. Now, let's check out this one. Give me something that, like, use it. There's something. This one. If I can burn off some of my Odin Force here. And you'll notice that Forked Lightning generates Odin Force at a pretty awesome rate. I don't know if that's faster or slower. Okay, it seems it's a bit slower than just hitting with a melee attack, but it is so much more useful than a basic melee attack. Alright, moving on, we've got Crack the Sky. I talked a bit about this. It's going to deal some energy damage, and it's going to increase the energy damage that it deals when you are imbued. So let's go ahead and... here it is normally. And then we hit over here. Get imbued, glowing yellow. Much stronger. Alright, moving on. Bring the Thunder. This is another one of my favorite abilities on Thor from before. Energy damage twice per second, vulnerability application, and attack and move speed slows. Just everything that I want on this skill. Probably max that one out. Alright, and it's got an area duration of 5 seconds. The duration does not increase with points put into the skill. But, notice, steadily generate Odin Force over time while standing in the affected area. Go over here and burn off some more Odin Force. Alright, so I strike the ground, and while I'm in this area, I'll generate a little bit of Odin Force. It seems to get just under 3 pips. So just under 3 pips of Odin Force from one cast from this. Now, if you're outside the area using it at ranged, then of course you're not going to generate any. It's only when you're standing in this area of effect. So it will play into a ranged melee hybrid kind of thing. Now, I was using this skill to burn off stuff. Let's go ahead and Rolling Thunder. Slam the ground with Mjolnir to create a shockwave consuming Odin Force to cleave a deeper innervated fissure. It's going to deal physical damage initially, but if you've got Odin Force, it's going to consume 3 Odin Force for an additional effect of energy damage twice per second in the affected area. It's got an area duration of 5 seconds. The duration does not increase with points put in the skill. Alright, let me have a look. This is just normally with no Odin Force. Big line AoE, similar to Gambit's Street Sweep. Something like that. But, if you have a little bit of Odin Force, let's just combine these two abilities. There we go. Now that's some Odin Force gaining there. I like that. Alright, so if you have a little bit of Odin Force, you're going to do damage over time in the wake of this skill. Very cool, very cool. Alright, next up we've got Lightning Strike here. This is your ranged basic attack. Now this is a new thing for Thor. He didn't always have a ranged basic attack, but I'm glad they put one in. For those people that want to play pure range, I usually like to hybrid, but it's good to have the pure range option. It's just a basic ranged attack, going to generate 1 Odin Force. But if you want to play pure range, then you got the skills to do it. Very nice, very nice. Alright, Storm Strike is next. Another favorite of mine from the old days of Thor. You're going to hit, deal some physical damage, and then chain lightning energy damage to 9 targets. have a look at Lightning Strike. Or, nope, Storm Strike. Yep. Here you go. Always been a fan of these bouncing attacks. They're not always practical, but I always enjoy them. They're very fun. Now, one thing that I do have to say about this Storm Strike is it doesn't seem to play in any way to the Odin Force and Imbue mechanics. So maybe there's something missing there, because it seems like it's out of place among all of his skills. This seems to be the only one that doesn't have any connection with Odin Force or Imbue. So, again, this is test center stuff, so maybe something will get added. Alright, Lightning Hammer. Next skill in the tree. Spin Mjolnir overhead, charging it with lightning and momentum, or sending it careening through enemies before you. Now, what's the Storm Torrent thing about? I guess we'll find out here in a minute. It's got some energy damage twice per second, and it slows. And charged Throne Hammer. So it looks like there's two different aspects to this attack. One dealing energy damage twice per second. One dealing energy damage and 100% if fully charged. Where do I have that skill? There it is, on my right click. Alright. Oh, cool. Alright, so as you're charging this skill... Now, one thing I've noticed, it doesn't release automatically. A lot of charge skills were changed recently so that they release automatically once fully charged. But while you're charging it, you've got a Storm Torrent. Once you release it, it's going to deal some pretty huge energy damage. Now, it's going to pass through the enemy twice, so that's a lot more powerful than it might seem, because it will pass through each enemy twice, dealing damage both ways. Very cool. I can see this working in with just a whole bunch of other AoEs, and it generates 3 Odin Force, right? Yeah. Alright, so what happens if you, throw down this, then throw this? It's a lot of AoE damage going out. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, moving on to the Son of Asgard tree. It looks like this is mostly his passives all in here now. And a few support skills. Alright, this is passive. This is flight. We'll put it there. And pull these out on the bar. And this is another passive, also his CC breaker. Okay. Alright, so first up we've got Son of Odin here. It's going to grant some damage rating, and it's also going to grant a little bit of brutal rating. Now this is the first brutal or crit rating of any kind, and it's not even crit, it's just brutal that we've seen in his tree. Now that is something that I find severely lacking from his tree, but then again, I have been playing Juggernaut, and he's got just a tremendous amount of crit in his kit. And here we've got a little bit of damage rating, some brutal rating. Here's how it scales. And when you will become imbued, you gain defense and tenacity rating. And you also give toughness to yourself and allies. The buff lasts 10 seconds. Interesting to note that the buff from Son of Odin, this toughness buff, is twice the duration of most skills that imbue you. So if you're trying to keep that imbue up, you're pretty much always going to keep this toughness up by default. Okay, cool. And of course Mjolnir. Mjolnir's flight. Basic flight skill. Alright, next up we've got Yggdrasil's Boon, something like that. I don't know, I always feel like there's not enough vowels in that word, man. Alright, 15% damage negated by default, very nice. Max health increased, regenerate health per second, and projectile deflection and chance. Looks like everything except for the damage negated will increase with points put in the skill, equating to a lot of defensive ability at max rank. I'm not sure if this is, 1 point in here with your plus skills taking it up the rest of the way might be enough. I don't know. It depends on how tanky you want to make your Thor. I've heard on the forums some people saying that right now he's really squishy, but then I also heard that that may be due to a bug that they've found and are eliminating. Apparently, this combined with this, or Son of Odin plus for Asgard, was like negating the defense passive. Anyway, it's all weird, but it'll be worked out by the time it goes live. Anyway, moving on, we've got Have At Thee, which I really like this skill right now. This is a skill that I was pretty much using anyway. I think it was called Acer's Boon before, or something like that. And it was just energy damage around you and recover spirit. And I used it every time it was up to recover my spirit and deal massive energy damage to everything on the screen. But now they've gone ahead and thrown in a weakening effect and a taunt. So by doing something that you were doing already on Thor, you are now a tank. And I like that a lot. Not to mention, generate 9 Odin Force, that's a full bar. So you go here and you blow your load doing whatever you want to do with your Odin Force, Spinning Strike, Rolling Thunder, and now that I'm thinking about it, okay, Hammer of Storms, or this one over here, we haven't gotten to this yet, but Ragnarok is a huge damage Odin Force spender. And then you use Have At Thee, regenerating both your Odin Force and your Spirit. Let's go ahead and have a look at Have At Thee. Wait, that was the wrong skill. Oops. We'll get to For Asgard in a minute, but here we go. Have At Thee. Alright. Now if I was... Let's see, let's just... So if I had no Odin Force here, then I would recover it all, and that would be really awesome. Very, very nice. I like that. Not to mention taunting and weakening everything. Like I said, awesome skill. Just turned me into a tank, on Thor, and I don't even have to change my gameplay to do it. That's my biggest thing against taunts. You guys have heard me talk about my dislike for taunts before, because it always feels like a wasted hotkey. It always feels like just an extra button that doesn't seem to have that much effect. But this, combining it with something that I'm already using anyway, causing me to become a tank just doing what I'm already doing. That's awesome. That's a great way to make a character a tank. I think they should adopt this kind of philosophy on Thing, on Captain America, on anybody else that they want to tank. Just put the taunt on an already awesome skill. Don't make it its own skill. Just attach it to something that you're already doing. And I think it will be highly effective at creating more tank characters, Alright, moving on, we've got the Anti-Force here. This is his signature ability. It's going to increase damage based on ranks in Ultimates here. And it's going to deal some massive energy damage. It's also got increased critical rating and critical damage for this skill. You can see the scaling on that is quite effective as well. I don't know, the crit damage, the scaling seems a little bit low. But again, this is Test Center. Maybe they haven't run the numbers yet. And maybe 700, almost 800 crit damage is a bit more than I give it credit for. I don't know. I kind of would have... Maybe with a few more points it goes up over 1,000. Yeah, with gear it'll get up over 1,000 crit rating, right? Crit damage. Yeah, it'll be good. Alright, so let's have a look at Anti-Force. Oh, that's cool. I like the animation, how he brings his hammer in and just channels all of the power in that hammer through it. And it's only got a 20-second cooldown of that. That's awesome. Alright, that's going to be your screen-wide room clear. Now, the range is a bit lower than it used to be. It used to affect a much larger area. when it was called, I think it was called the Anti-Force. It was down here or something. I think at one time it was called God Blast, but then they took that away, called it Anti-Force, because they wanted God Blast to become the new ultimate. Right. Now, Ragnarok said this was a great way to spend some Odin Force. You can see it uses up 6 of it. It's got a cooldown of 10 seconds. It's, of course, going to imbue you. Physical damage and weaken. Have a look. Now, one thing I find weird about this, you can see you launch straight up in the air, come down, and do a ton of physical damage. Now, what I found weird, though, is that this looks like a crashdown kind of ability, you know, like a crashdown strike or something, or maybe very similar over here to Asgardian Smite, just twice the damage, maybe almost 3 times the damage, but it doesn't move you. Now, again, this is Test Center. That may change, but to me, it seems like if there was going to be, you know, this type of ability, you wouldn't jump up in the air. You just like raise your hammer up and slam it down here on the ground. It seems like the jumping up in the air is a little bit unneeded there. I don't know. But still a very cool ability, lots of damage, and like I said, using up that Odin Force, a great way to do that. You get in a rotation of maybe using Ragnarok, then following it with Spinning Smite here, and then using some imbued powers, generate some Odin Force, or Ragnarok into Spinning Smite, into Have At Thee to max out your Odin Force again, and then spend it all with some other skills while these two are on cooldown. Rolling Thunder and Hammer of Storms or something like that. Then you got some nice damage while these guys are on cooldown. These huge damage dealers right there. Alright, next up we've got, for Asgard, you saw my pop it a bit earlier, but now we can find out what it actually does. Oh my god. +5 fighting, just right off the bat. That's a lot of damage. It's also going to increase your base damage. It's going to give you some defense. Again, I don't think the numbers are tuned on that. 27 defense wouldn't be very helpful. But I think I don't know, maybe it'll be something more like 2,700 defense would be really high. Maybe something more like, I don't know, 1,700 defense. I don't know. We'll see what it gets tuned to. Let the math wizards over there at Gaz figure that one out. It's also going to increase your attack speed and move speed, and regenerate health when you hit with a power. And it will also imbue you for its entire duration of 9 seconds. Now notice the cooldown reduces here with points put into the skill. The more points you have in, the further that cooldown is going to get down. But the duration will not increase with points put in. So getting some extra power duration is probably going to make this skill lots of fun. So look for power duration on your gear when you're gearing out Thor. That'd be my recommendation. The longer this lasts, the longer you have that +5 fighting and base damage. This is just a huge buff. Alright, finally, God Blast. This one is what we've all been waiting for. It was back in the day, you know, it was his big AoE screen clear, and then it was taken away, called Anti-Force, pretty much the same mechanic, but just renamed, and because there was rumblings that it was going to become his new ultimate power. And what do we got here? +5 to the rank of all powers. Is this just for me? Yeah, I think the +5 to all powers applies to you, so it's going to increase all of your powers by 5. It's going to regenerate 8.4% of your maximum health per second, and you and your allies are empowered, increasing base damage by 40%. This empowered mechanic is incredibly useful in a raid environment. It's going to make Thor a much wanted character in raids. Buff duration, I believe innately, is probably just 20 seconds, but because you can see here I've got a rank 2 in my ult, then it has a bit longer on that buff duration there. And the active effect, that goes along with it is just some basic energy damage, and the duration. Oh, that's very cool. The more points you have in your ult, the longer you will channel this ability. And if you get enough points in your ult, then you'll have a full extra second, so you'll have one more tick of that huge damage there. It's also going to imbue you for 5 seconds. Let's have a look at God Blast. Now, I guess the damage component of it isn't quite on there yet, because it didn't do any damage to them. But that was a very cool animation, and once the damage is on there, wow, what a build up. How anticlimactic was that? Okay, anyway, when that goes live, I'm sure the damage will be on there, and it will just obliterate everything in front of you. Alright guys, that was Thor. The costume, let me double check while I'm looking at it, while I'm thinking about it. It's not here yet. There is one costume that a lot of people have been looking for that should release with the 52 review, and that is the Earth X female Thor enhanced costume. It's not the female Thor that's going in the comics that everybody's making a big fuss about these days. That's a different Thor, but they look almost the same. And if you're digging the new comics run with the female Thor, then you'll have the Earth X costume to rock that look if you want to. Alright guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Make sure to rate, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you in the next one. Probably, I'm hoping I'll do a rundown on Industry City. That's also coming in this patch. So I'll see you guys there. Take it easy. Have a good one. Peace.